Today is Friday, December 6th, 2024, and we welcome you to the Chapter 49 podcast. Chapter 49 represents most IRS employees in the state of Indiana. My name is Larry Lannon, retiree and a communications volunteer for NTEU Chapter 49. We're happy you chose to join us today. And once again, welcome our chapter president, Duncan Giles.
Thanks, Larry. It's always good to be here.
And we have a special guest. You see that if you're looking on the video version of this podcast. I'm going to get out of the way and let Duncan introduce our guest.
Yeah. Come on down and introduce yourself. Andy Reitmeyer, who is this year in charge of our combined federal campaign program. Andy, good to have you on the program today.
Great. Thank you so much, Duncan. Thrilled to be here.
Really? You're talking to me and you're thrilled to be here. Is that your story?
It's very early.
One of the reasons that Larry and I wanted to have Andy on here today is, combined federal campaign is a huge, huge thing for federal employees. And, Andy being in charge of making sure folks get out and are aware of it and what they can do. Want to hear Andy talk a little bit about why, from your perspective, why it's so important and how folks can basically, if they're looking at CFC, how they can join or how they can donate, things of that nature.
Excellent. And I think, Duncan, that's my cue to go in and, let's talk a little bit about the CFC.
Let's do that.
All right. So I just want to say a quick thank you for giving me the opportunity. We've been going since IRS kicked off its CFC campaign on the 1st of October. From then up until now, we've been really going around trying to really bring as much awareness as we can. But there's a lot of things about the CFC that a lot of people don't realize. So the first thing I want to point out is CFC is really the largest single organized charity campaign in the world. Using the federal employees, it is the single largest organized charity campaign. That's something I never really understood. I was kind of like a lot of people where I would wait for every November, December, sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas. I would start seeing the messages and I'd say, okay, it's time for me to make my donations. And I would make my donations and I would move on without giving it a second thought. It's really been a privilege having a chance to lead it this year because I can now really see what goes into it and how much of a difference we really, really make. So that's a little bit of what I want to talk about today is, taking it beyond just I've seen the messages, or if you've been around for 20 plus years, like I have, you say, okay, every year it's CFC time, let's do this. Maybe we can dig into a little bit more of, why it really matters. With that in mind, I'm going to give the shameless plug. We have about 40 days left in the CFC campaign for this year. It's going to close at 11:59 p.m. And I believe it's Eastern Standard Time. On the 15th of January, 2025. So we've got roughly 40 days to go ahead and to make our pledges and, as I keep saying, help change the world. One of the first things I looked at, and I didn't know this, was who all actually can give CFC. So obviously, for employees like us, all of us at the IRS, we can give. But it also includes federal retirees. So for those retirees out there who have left IRS service, Larry, I'm looking at you. For folks like you still have the opportunity that you can use those same tools, and we'll share those in a little bit, so you can go in there and you can give to the thousands of charities across 14 different cause areas for the CFC. And we have a hefty lift this year. So the Treasury Department has asked IRS, with 100,000 employees, they've asked us to raise $1.7 million. The CFC this year. So that's a big number, but we are definitely moving through. And just as of this morning, I'm going to get the late breaking news that I have not even shared up the chain. So Duncan and Larry, you get it first for your podcast today. I'll be apologizing for this later, I know. But as of this morning, we have raised $864,000. So we're right around 51% of our goal, and that is huge. And this past week was the International Day of Giving, which we lovingly call Giving Tuesday. And just this week, the help of everyone across the service, we've raised over $200,000 just in 1 week, which is amazing and really shows
Awesome.
how much we all care. All right, so I'm done promoting. Now I'm just going to go into some of the why behind it here. So one of the things I've heard since that very first kickoff meeting we did in October, and I'm going out and I'm talking to leaders, I'm talking to employees, and people are saying, Andy, we have 100,000 employees at the IRS. Does it really matter if one person does or does not give? We're just a drop of water in this massive, sea of 100,000 employees. And I always tell folks, not really the point of the CFC. The CFC, this is personal. It doesn't matter what the person next to you is doing. It's really about what it means to you to help make that positive change and to give back to these charities. Like I said, there's several thousand of them across 14 cause areas that can really change the lives of people and help resolve issues, locally as well as worldwide. And it doesn't matter if you're a brand new entry-level employee that came in, or if you're a 30-plus year senior executive, everything still counts the same. We are all equal. There's no one is better. And being able to give, whether it's monetary donations or there are charities that allow you to do volunteer hours. Now, I will put this plug in. While we're all for volunteering, please don't do it during work hours. Let's be sure that we have that set, because I don't want to be the guy that's on the hook for that one. Andy said I can go and volunteer during the day. No, please do it in non-work hours.
But feel free to set new policy. You're good.
Yep. Well, boy, I'm going to be apologizing a lot today, Duncan. I can feel this one coming. But no, I mean, all joking aside, though, it doesn't matter if you give a little, if you give a lot, if you volunteer, you are doing something and you're helping, change everything. And so another thing that I've heard a lot from employees is, Andy, I'm not wealthy. I'm not rich. I can't give that much. So I always like to carry this little sheet, and you're going to see me cheating off of it today because I'm getting older. I can't remember all these numbers, Duncan. But I always like to tell folks, we have the ability to see if we break it down by dollar, just what your money can do. So I like to tell everyone, if you can donate just $1 every 2 weeks, so $1 per pay period, you really know what that can do out there in the world? Well, if it's a food bank charity, that can buy a single meal for a family of four, that can get a single meal. So by giving $1 a day, you could be feeding a family. For charities that deal with, making potable water, just $1 a pay period, that's $26 a year, can set 4 liters of clean drinking water in a place where they don't have well access or they don't have any pipes for water. Let's look at animal shelters. That $1 every pay period buys, a box of food for a pet or a toy for a lonely pet or something along those lines. Educational organizations, you can buy books or pencils, other things to get a child through the school year. So there's so many different things, just $1. Let's bump it up. What if it's $2 per pay period? Duncan, I know I'm sounding like a salesman here, but listen up. I'm feeling it, guys. I'm just going for it. So if it's $2 a pay period, $2 a pay period, that's it. If my math is good, I shouldn't do live math. This is the curse for it. But what? That's like $52
That's
a year.
$52.
All right, thank you. It would have been so bad if I couldn't do that math. So if it's $52 a year, that can purchase supplies for 20 people to go out and do a cleanup event in a local area or maybe a park or something like that. $2.50 per pay period. I'm done doing math. Let's just say $2.50 per pay period. I really love this one. That allows a deployed service member to film themselves reading a bedtime story several times throughout the year and sending it home to their children. So they can get that and it's going to be professional and they're going to see that. So that's a really touching way there. $3 per pay period. This will, for people who are visually impaired and need some sort of a corrective action, this is going to help 3 people see throughout the year just by doing $3 per pay period. $4 per pay period is going to feed one child for 2 weeks in a homeless shelter. $5 per pay period is going to provide a goat for a family overseas. That goat can be used for food. It can be used to make money, make them self-sustaining. $10 per pay period. This goes to military families who are, maybe a little bit low on income with deployment. Just make sure that their utilities are stayed on while, one of the parents is deployed. There's so many other different things I can do, but I just love to give that a little taste of when people say, I don't have much money. And I say, you do $1. You can just do $1 pay period. You can start changing the world. And let's think of it this way. 100,000 employees at the IRS. If everyone just gave $1 pay period, we are raising over $2.5 million to go out and help people, locally, at home, and all the way across the world. And I mean, that also counts with those volunteer hours too. And people say, well, I can just give money. Does volunteering really count? Yes, it does. When you volunteer, you're helping that charity in ways that you never thought of. By you going and helping and do something, that's less money that charity has to spend as overhead to hire someone or contract with someone to come and do that service that you've just done, which means that more of the money they're getting donated is actually going directly to that cause and to helping. So clearly, Duncan, you can tell I'm very passionate about this. And really, if you don't mind, I'll kind of get emotional, but I'll share a personal example.
Please.
I personally know the power of how giving can help a family. So when I was growing up, my older sibling had a serious disability and was not able. And we grew up in a suburban, low environment, low income environment outside of the city of Pittsburgh. So medical care, we're looking 40, 50 years ago, medical care was a little more expensive, not as available. And it was really just impossible for my family to have all the funds needed so that my brother could have the care that he needed. Strangers that we didn't know donated, and through charities, they donated to my family. And we were able to get mobility equipment and medical care for my brother that ended up helping him eventually be able to walk and to be able to move around and to leave the house with ease. And really, it gave him his life back. And we could never have done that on our own as a family. So through the kindness of others, through charities that are supported through the CFC and very similar, organizations, I firsthand can tell you how much that little bit makes a difference in people's lives. And you remember that throughout your whole life. So,
well, Andy, I have to tell you that that's a terrific story. And nothing tells the importance of a program like a personal story such as the one you just told. And I will say that my experience with CFC goes back further than when I started with the federal government in 1983. My father worked for the Defense Department most of his adult life, and he worked in a building that it was so large, it was the second largest building, government building next to the Pentagon. It was called the Army Finance Center in Indianapolis. It's got a different name now, but at that time it was a military building. 3,000 or 4,000 people worked in that building, and my father was in charge of the CFC program for that building, for that civilian workforce for many, many years. I got involved in CFC when I was involved with my working again. That 100,000 people for IRS does not count the many thousands of retirees like myself who are eligible to give to CFC. So we're just about done with our allocated time. Duncan, any last question for Andy?
Yeah, first off, I want to just say, thank you for coming on, because I think it's extremely important what you've shared. Puts more of a face on the CFC than has been before. And one of the, charities that I highly recommend that NTU is very involved with is FIA, that helps with federal employees who've had experiences. Either, they can do scholarships for children of employees, or they help out in disaster areas where folks have had landslides, tornadoes, anything of that nature. So I think it's very important. But how difficult is it, Andy, to sign up for the CFC, and what do folks need to do to take advantage of this? And like you said, just a couple of dollars a pay period makes a huge difference.
Yep. So Duncan, it's really easy. There's 4 easy ways to donate. You can go online at givecfc.org, and you can do it right on your computer. We still have the old-fashioned paper files, so you can do the paper pledge form, and you can send that in. We also have the CFC Giving mobile app, which is available for Apple and Android devices. And this year, I really love this. If you text the word donate to 978-487-5678. That's 978-487-5678. You can actually do a text right from your phone donation when you follow the prompts. So it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. You choose a cause, choose an amount or hours you want to volunteer, and you change the world. The 1, 2, 3, you can do that. And I know I'm over my time, but I just want to add, thank you so much for giving me the chance to promote this. And I will say this, over 21 years, this has been the privilege of my leadership career leading the CFT for IRS. So thank you so much.
It's very important work. As I said, my own father did that as well with another government agency, and talked about it all the time when he came home. So it was obviously very important to him. And congratulations so far. It looks like you're well on your way to meeting your goal, exceeding your goal, hopefully. Thanks for giving us the scoop on the latest numbers. And thank you very much, Andy Breitmeyer. Second time you've been on our podcast. You're always welcome, and we thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, Duncan, we every now and then we do something really nice. So we did something.
Yeah, exactly. And this is great cause, great guy leading it. And, we both can't recommend this more to, help people out. And like Andy said, a couple of bucks a pay period makes all the difference in the world.
And NTEU's involvement is something that's interesting, because when I first went to work for the federal government and went to work for IRS, NTEU did not support the CFC. And that was because one of the agencies or organizations that benefited from it was the Right to Work Committee. We didn't think that was right. And once that organization was taken off, I think we told CFC, hey, we'd be glad to be a part of it, but we can't be a part of it if the Right to Work Committee, which any union would say. And the CFC obliged NTEU, and we've been solidly behind CFC. And that goes all the way back to the 1980s when that was settled. So we are happy to be a supporter of the combined federal campaign. And we would encourage employees and retirees like myself, you go through, you can do it through your OPM account, which is kind of your HR account. You have the HR account, the payroll account while you're an employee. When you're retired, it's OPM. Most people have online accounts anymore. It's very easy to do that as far as keeping track of what's with the withholding on your taxes, all the different withholdings you would have from your annuity. This is one of them you can elect to have. Well, let's get on to our other issues. We do have a designee as IRS commissioner. As you and I have talked about before, Duncan, it's supposed to be a 5-year term, and Mr. Werfel's term would end in 2027. But as I understand the rules, if the president nominates somebody else and the Senate does confirm that person would then become the IRS commissioner. His name is Billy Long. So what do we know about him?
Yeah, folks have said, and I've seen some traffic on this, well, Commissioner Werfel is here for, he's got a 5-year term. And that's exactly what the statute says. The commissioner is appointed to a 5-year term. The next particular subset of that code says, the president may relieve the commissioner of their duties. So, it looks like the president-elect has chosen someone to possibly replace Commissioner Werfel. Commissioner Werfel said he would like to stay. So I would hope he would stay on as long as possible. I think he's done a good job here. I don't agree with everything he's done, but I think he's done a good job as commissioner. The commissioner designate is a former member of the House of Representatives. His main claim to fame is being an auctioneer, and he's per the president-elect, he's very much a people person. Now that of course is always put to the test when you're put in charge of a agency that has 100,000 people. How much of a people person are you going to be? Especially with some of the things that we've been hearing that certain people associated with the incoming administration want to do. So it's going to prove to be interesting, and of course it still has to go through the Senate confirmation. So we're hoping that Commissioner Werfel can serve as long as possible, and if the former representative is confirmed by the Senate eventually, that he follows in Commissioner Werfel's footsteps, works not only for the taxpayers, which we all do, but also with the employees in mind, and works with NTEU to try and better the agency.
And if you don't believe Mr. Long's credentials as an auctioneer, all you have to do is go to YouTube and you query him. He actually had a situation during a committee hearing where they had some protester get up, and before the person could be removed, he just went into his auctioneer thing. It was something to see. Whether that qualifies him to be IRS commissioner, I don't know, but that is something you need to see. We don't really have specific information on the continuing resolution. The budget runs through December 20th. I did see the Speaker of the House did tell one reporter, when a reporter asked him a question about this, that it would be his idea to kick the can down the road to March, to keep the CR going to March. Now, I don't know if that's what's going to happen. There's been a lot of discussion under the radar and a lot of discussion, I'm sure, behind closed doors on Capitol Hill as to what to do, because something has to happen by December 20th. And I don't believe anybody at this point wants a government shutdown. So I guess the only answer we can give is that we've had some tea leaves, but we don't have a specific answer now.
Yeah, we've had very few tea leaves, unfortunately. So it's tough to figure out what might happen. And I agree with you. I don't think anybody right before Christmas wants to shut down. Now, if they do a short-term extension, like you said, some talk to March. There have been other talks of a continuing resolution throughout the entire fiscal year. I've seen some things where the incoming administration doesn't really want to spend their political capital in their first 100 days. That's always what you hear of a new administration. The first 100 days are very important. We're going to do this in the first 100 days. I don't think they want a protracted budget fight as well as a debt ceiling fight, because we've got the debt ceiling coming up as well. So I would hope they wouldn't want that. The perfect world would be, let's get the budgets done. Let's pass the bills if they have to be omnibus or minibus bills to get everything together. Agree with what's going on between the House and the Senate, and something the current president can sign. Unfortunately, I don't see much of that happening. The big problem for us is the continuing resolution, as it's written and interpreted by many, is because language was inserted, basically the same language was inserted from last year. It would carve out another $20 billion from the money from the act that gave the IRS a total of $80 billion to try and, get our customer service better, up our enforcement, finally improve our technology. And we've been making steps towards that, but it's a gradual process. And if it's written and they interpret it this way, and another $20 billion is stripped out in another continuing resolution, then, as the commissioners pointed out, there could be, and our national president, Doreen Greenwald, there could be impact to customer service, there could be impact to hiring, there could be impact to continued technology upgrades, enforcement's going to be hurt. There's a whole stack of things that are going on. So there's a lot of moving pieces to this that need to get fixed before December the 20th, and time is running out. We're talking 2 weeks.
And we don't really know what the impact would be. Many government agencies have said, hey, if we kick this can down the road to March, we're going to have serious budget problems just to do our basic function. Might have to do temporary refs. I mean, there's a lot that could happen if this can is kicked down the road. So it's worth watching. But that's what the speaker has said the last time he commented. And that was just a brief answer to a reporter's question. So we don't really know what's happening at this point. And that's only one, idea that was spouted at one day just a few days ago. I want to move to the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. I don't think it's an official department yet, but it's been a proposed department. There's been a lot said about this, and really we don't know what authority Congress is going to give this so-called department. But we've talked a lot in some recent podcasts about how little this would impact the government deficit. The budget of the government would be very small. Vivek Ramaswamy, who along with Elon Musk are the co-chairs of this thing, if it ever does become an official government department, said something very interesting the other day, because he's seen this and he knows the numbers are what they are. And he basically, I don't know where he said this, but it was quoted in one of the major news organizations, that their goal, even though they say they're looking for government efficiency, their goal is not to save money, that they have money savings, budget savings. That's not what they want to do. They just want to cut government back. They want to let go of government employees. They want government to be smaller, whether that's a good idea or not. Now, if I could throw my 2 cents worth in here, it's very easy to tear something down, very easy to take it away. As you just kind of mentioned a moment ago, it takes a long time to build something up, which IRS has been trying to do over a number of years. So there is a danger. It's not just IRS, it's lots of other government agencies that everybody depends on, like Social Security and Medicare. Get to my age, those things become important. And just the various aspects of government that people depend upon all the time. If they get smaller and are unable to do the missions that they have under the law, you can tear it down. You can start laying people off. You can make them smaller. But once the public catches on to this and says, that's not really what we want, building it back up is going to be a more difficult situation. So I'd like your take on this.
Yeah, I think all of your points are very well raised. When you're talking about what some of the ideas that are coming from the two co-chairs, and even if it's an advisory commission, then how much is Congress going to be listening to their interim reports and their final report that they want to have by July 4th of 26, I believe, 2026. This is what was in Project 2025. You and I talked all summer about Project 2025, some of the things in it. They're going right off of this playbook. And for people who said, well, this is just politics, they're not really going to use it. You don't write a playbook not to use it. And that's, been a theme that we're starting to see. And they are talking about making wholesale cuts. Like you said, I saw the same quote as you did. We're not interested in so much in basically saving money. We just want to cut employees. We want to scale back. We don't want people enforcing regulations. Well, who passes the regulations? Congress. Who passes the tax laws that IRS enforces? Congress. Who passes the things that our folks in Customs and Border Protection, or HHS, or EPA, or any of the the Patent and Trade Office? Who does these things that we represent? It's Congress. So we're enforcing the laws that Congress makes, the regulations that Congress wants us to have. And if they're talking about stripping that, now they're talking about taking powers away from Congress. How are folks in Congress, whether they're aligned with the president-elect or not, going to feel about that? I think there's going to be some pushback from folks there too. So it's going to be very interesting, but wholesale reduction in force of government agencies is not in the best interest of the American taxpayer and the American people. It simply isn't. If you want to sit there and look about how to reform government, how to take another look, how to make things better, absolutely. But if your only goal is to say, we're just going to cut because we don't like these regulations, that's absolutely the wrong way to go, in my opinion.
And we'll keep an eye on this and keep you posted here and on our Facebook page. You can like or follow our Facebook page. Just search under Facebook, NTEU Chapter 49 Indiana, that exact phrase. And one last thing, Duncan, the FEHP open season for the health benefits and other benefits that are offered to government employees. That open season ends, it's December 6th as we record and post this. December 9th is the deadline, so time is running out.
Yeah, time is running out. Please, please, please do not wait to the last minute if you want to make changes. Again, for NTU members, you can go into NTEU. They've got the consumer checkbook. Our folks at United Benefits have the Genius Benefits Guide that can really help narrow it down. So there are a lot of tools out there to find the best FEHB, the best health insurance plan for you and your family. And I can't tell you the number of employees I've talked to during this open season who said, well, I never realized this. I never realized that other plans had that. And so you want to make sure and take a look. If you're happy with what you've got, you're happy with the premiums you're paying, go ahead and do it. But, you need to take a close look at things like Blue Cross and Blue Shield just pulled back on, they were going to limit the amount of time someone could be under anesthesia as a cost saving measure that they were going to cover. And they, when everybody started pushing back, American public, doctors, nurses, everybody like that, oh, well, maybe we need to rethink this. So you want to make sure that you're going to be, with a plan that's going to meet all of your needs. And if that's, one of the big ones, great. If that's a smaller one, that's great too. Talk to your physician's offices or medical professionals that you deal with. Make sure that they take that insurance coverage if you're thinking about making a switch. But I would urge everyone to take a close look and get that done sooner rather than later. Do not wait until the 9th. Don't want anybody to be missing out because the system crashes because there's too many people trying to do it at the last minute. Okay,
Duncan, let's have your final comment.
My final comment today is going to be on, I'm going to be going back to what Andy was talking about in the CFC. And I think it's a tremendous way for a very small price, either per paycheck or per volunteering, to give back to your community. And I'm a huge person to want to give back, try and help others, things of that nature. So, for less than a cup of coffee, per week, you could be spending that money, less than a cup of coffee, spend it on the CFC and donate to a really good cause that you believe in, to help others that are less fortunate than we are.
Excellent point. As a retiree, I've tried to volunteer in my local community and support local charities, but CFC is a great way to spread that wealth out and support a number of organizations. Andy did an excellent job of giving us some good examples. Duncan, my final comment deals with this. I'm 73 now, and if I'm lucky and keep my health, September of next year, I will turn 74. So this story just really hit home. The oldest known wild bird in the world has laid an egg at the ripe age of 74. Her first in 4 years, and that comes from the U.S. wildlife people. This is a long-winged seabird. It's called Wisdom, and it's returned to the Midway Atoll National Wildlife Refuge. And it's part of the Hawaiian set of islands, and laid what experts estimate may be her 60th egg over her 74 years. So, Duncan, even as we get older, we can still do some important things. So I don't know what else to say, except thank you, Duncan, Joss. Thanks to Andy for joining our podcast. And thanks to you for watching and listening. Duncan and I do this as once a week as we can, most weeks. And we do that because you tell us that you are watching and listening, and the numbers tell us you're watching and listening. So we appreciate the fact that you're there. And as long as you're there, we'll try to continue with this podcast, which is more than 4.5 years old now. So in the meantime, please be safe and be kind.